And welcome to Action Dyne Industries. This is the Oculus Quest reviews. We are now talking to you about the Rob rating system. My name is Matt. I'm joined here today by Wizard, the Rob, and Sean.
Hey!
Yeah! And
Dude,
we've got some
keep
extra
your flies
special.
to yourself, man.
I know the Rob stinks, and I know
He does, man. Wow.
a lot of you might
Like,
not know about the Rob. And
Do you normally
and
sleep on trash, bro?
he does actually. That's his preferred sleeping spot after he's gotten home from the bowling alley, where he arrives at about 2 a.m. to pick up the drunk babes.
I mean, it's not a bad system, but wow, bro. You know, like, I don't know. Change your shirt, take a shower.
Yeah, he stinks, but in the end, he's loyal. He's honest.
I'll give him that.
Honesty is always a good thing. So even though he stinks, we keep him around. He's not a terrible guy. Wizard,
He's all right.
And he's a little grumpy. We turned his mic off for the evening. So anyway, we wanted to spend some time talking about the Oculus Quest. I had been just started doing a little bit of VR game development with a friend, and after a few months of working on stuff and building different graphics components, I'm like, I should probably check this stuff out.
Might want to see what you're, lighting up here. Yeah.
Yeah, I should probably test out the stuff that I'm making and see what it looks like in VR. Like, although I can't imagine it's much different than how I see it on the computer screen. And anyone that's tried VR they're gonna know that that's totally
Wildly different than what you see just on a flat screen.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to report the stuff that I was making looked pretty cool in VR.
That's good.
It was very rewarding. But on another note, I had been skeptical about the whole VR thing. I mean, look at the picture we've got up here. I mean, the Rob with that stupid thing strapped to his face.
He's got that thing strapped to his face.
I think my initial thought was like, oh, I don't want to be one of those. I don't want to look like that. And like, I don't think anyone really does. But if you try it, it's pretty cool. There are some cool benefits, and so I picked up one of these things. My big allure to this device, and I had been looking into VR for some time, and I just haven't been satisfied, to be honest.
Yeah,
you got to buy for the longest time you had to buy a big computer, very powerful. And set up sensors for most of these systems, set up sensors in the corners of the room.
Jeez.
And then you got a cable coming out of the headset too. And so, I mean, you're talking about spending a couple $1,000. Easily, just to have a limited selection of games. And I got to say, kudos to all of you that got into this stuff early on. I'm really glad you did.
Yeah,
and
thanks,
spend
guys.
the money because you supported the technology to kind of help get it to the point where it's at. I do appreciate that from the bottom of my heart.
And the bottom, in front of my face too.
But upon trying it, I was rather blown away at how awesome it is. I mean, particularly the Oculus Quest, and I will say the Facebook association does bother me. You do need a Facebook account.
Yeah, at least for this. I think there's other VR headsets that don't necessarily need the Facebook account.
Absolutely. There are other ones. We specifically, Sean and I and a couple other people we know have an Oculus Quest, so we're going to be specifically talking about this. We have no experience with any other headset other than just what we read and.
Yeah, not like this. I played with a VR headset 25 years ago, and in a mini mall. The guy had set up a whole series of them, and it was a giant helmet that you brought down over your head. But this is a completely different setup. I'm sitting at home. I got a nice 6 foot by 6 foot square, and I can walk around and move around in this thing, and it's pretty. The technology to be able to think from 25 years ago to now, bringing that from a massive. There's probably had several massive computers that he had set up somewhere, and here I've got this thing strapped to my face now.
Well, I mean,
technology is pretty awesome.
I mean, this group that I'm working with on this VR game, I'm trying to tell them like, well, my only experience with VR is seeing the movie Lawnmower Man.
Yeah, I wireframe, like hardcore.
Yeah, and because I think maybe a year ago I had done some like supposedly VR, but it was kind of more of a ride than interact. There wasn't a lot of interactivity other than just you could look around, but it was kind of like
sure.
Kind of like one of those things where you're on like a roller coaster, it was a predefined track and you can just look around. It was at like this arcade mini golf place, kind of place that the Rob would hang out at, actually.
He's probably been there a couple of times.
Yeah, he probably has. I know you've probably been there.
I think I have, yeah.
It's out by you. I'm gonna freshen up here. So now we're going to talk about the Rob rating system and getting into this, and my wife getting into it and becoming interested in it as well. And then we talked Sean into it as well.
Yeah, that wasn't a hard sell, really.
And like another, some other family members also. I think what really does it is the multiplayer experience. I think that
absolutely.
Right now, I think that's kind of something everyone is craving for with all the stuff that's been going on, and
all the Rona stuff going on.
Yeah, but from what I was looking at, like a lot of the videos that there are look like they're made by some like seasoned VR veterans. And typically by people that don't seem to have don't seem to be affected by motion sickness whatsoever, because it is a thing with VR. It is something to
very much
because everyone's affected by it very differently. I found it kind of interesting how like how everyone has certain triggers and things like that. And I felt that there needed to be a resource for people to kind of learn about some of this stuff and just kind of be aware of it. So if you are curious about virtual reality or the Oculus Quest 2 and some of the games, hopefully this guide can help this rating system, and we'll have a bunch of reviews on different games that we've tried. I'm hoping that it'll help, shed some light onto the world of virtual reality and what it's like and the things to be aware of when you're getting into it. If you got cold feet, if you're skeptical or that kind of thing. Sean, do you have any follow-up on that? I was talking for maybe...
Oh, I was actually kind of following along because that was something like when I first got the Oculus Quest, that inner ear kind of feeling, like what you're seeing versus what you're actually feeling in your head, takes a long while to kind of sync up. I guess that's the best way I can put it. You can move using like thumbsticks and joysticks, and you can actually glide through various rooms and stuff. And that kind of throws your inner ear off because your feet, are planted, but you're seeing movement in your eyes.
Yeah.
So it really kind of gives you a disorientating kind of feeling, maybe a little in the stomach there, kind of throws your inner ear off. And I know some people have some issues with that. So there's definitely a comfort issue. So, and I'll tell you, I had that when I first got it. I had to kind of mess around with settings a little bit, and I had to play some various different games and kind of get a feel for how everything kind of worked out. And it took 6, maybe 8 weeks for me to kind of get to a point where I feel comfortable moving through and not having like knowing that my feet are planted somewhere and seeing the movement in the goggles that are in front of my face that are mere centimeters away from my face.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that inner ear thing took a little while to kind of, I don't want to say get used to, but kind of like overcome would probably be a better apt term, because it really is something that you have to kind of actively work on.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's tough, and I feel like those that find themselves to be affected by it very easily, I think what we've got to show you, I think, can help guide you through it.
Absolutely. Especially like, I know there's a couple of games that you and I played together, definitely with your wife there. We played together a couple of different games, and it gets you used to the idea of moving around, shifting your focus. You can actually, turn side to side, and you see that field kind of change within the headset itself.
Yeah. The science behind it, you've got some fluid in your inner ear, closer to your brain than your eardrum. And it's kind of helping tell your body which way gravity is pulling you, basically, right?
Yes.
So your brain is getting that information, but it also actually gets information from your ears themselves about echoes in the room and things like that. Yeah, actually, humans do have remarkable capability for echolocation. There are some blind people that can actually ride bikes just by doing these like clicking noises.
Walking down the street, that clicking noise that they get information from.
It does happen. So your brain actually gets more information about the space and kind of the world than your eyes actually feed them. But it does rely on your eyes to kind of like supplement that. Kind of
put it all together too.
So when your eyes and your inner ear and your ears are telling your brain two different things, your brain can kind of like freak out for some people, and no one really knows why. Some people are more susceptible to it. Some people have had motion sickness in cars and things like that.
Yeah, I know, like my wife will get, like if we're driving around in the city or something and she's got her phone out and she's looking through, playing whatever game or looking through Facebook or what have you, she kind of gets, after several hours or so, but if she's not really paying attention, she can kind of get a little nauseous, a little upset stomach. And this kind of has that same idea. You're not really necessarily seeing the movement or feeling the movement in the same way your inner ear is actually accepting the information.
Yeah. So for whatever reason, everyone seems to react to it a little bit differently. And some people seem to be triggered by certain things a little bit more than others. From what I've gathered anyway. That's not I have no scientific data to back that up.
We are far from scientists.
Oh yeah.
Especially this guy.
Very small sample of what we had to do. So I think we can get this started though, and
sure.
I think if there's any other things that we haven't covered, we can. I know the flies. It's
not terrible, but geez, every once in a while they kind of get away from them.
They're moving the air around. It's kind of like having a ceiling fan.
Well, at least for him, I can get all the bugs and everything.
That's right.
Whatever.
So for any
muster
game,
through, man.
Any game that these games are typically called experiences, and that's the first thing to get used to when you look for them on the Oculus store. And the other thing to look for is they have a comfort rating.
Those are a little deceiving, though, I think.
It's a very generalized term. I'm going to put it that way. I'm very glad that they have it. I am very glad that they have it. But it is very generalized, and you need to understand that.
Very much.
And you need to figure out where which of these comfort zones can you handle?
Tolerate, basically.
Exactly, yeah. So they have comfortable, moderate, and intense. And I feel like I saw one that said extreme. Extreme! I can't remember. But we're not going to look it up. You can fact check us and put it in the comments
throw them down below, whatever.
That'd be cool if anyone's watching this. I mean, with the Rob,
I think there might be a guy in like Outer Mongolia that's watching this or something. But I mean, this guy might have some friends or something. I don't know.
When you got this stuff, like someone's got to be so embarrassed. They're like hiding their phone or something. Like they don't want anyone to know what they're watching because someone will walk around the corner and be like, "Dude, what are you watching?
What are you watching? Nothing. No, not me. I'm not what. Nope.
Are those flies?
No."
So I guess we'll jump into what I've set up for comfort warnings.
Yes.
As I would call them.
Ooh, spiffy.
That's right. We got the Rob here. And
he's kind of our guinea pig for everything.
He is, actually. And, the Rob...
It's because we pay him in, random peanuts we find on the floor.
Yeah.
And, he's kind of fine with that, so...
He is. He's okay with it. He's pretty susceptible to the motion sickness stuff. So he works great in this situation.
But I mean, look at him now. You can tell he's been playing for a while.
Yeah, he's, he'll be okay.
Yeah, just throw him some more peanuts.
He'll be okay. So these comfort warnings are for those. We've noticed those instances of maybe the game has a comfortable rating, meaning that people very susceptible to motion sickness would have an okay time playing this game. But we found that, however, even within those titles, there might be one little thing that happens for just a moment that can be unsettling.
Throw your head around a little bit and like, whoa, hey.
But, even though it's not constant, it's in there. And we thought we would want to address those things. So
absolutely.
So for that, we've got visual collapse and build. One particular game had this effect. My wife Jen, she had an okay time with the game, but then it come to like the end of the match, and the whole world fell apart, and she lost it. If she had known about it, to close her eyes for it,
she might have been okay.
She'd be okay. Now she knows, but she had to take the headset off and take a moment. And we'll go over that, I think, in our final thoughts about that kind of... Sean, I know you know that feeling of... Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's a weird kind of like the world expands for a second. You're like, wait, I didn't move, but whoa. It's almost... It's a little like having like shotgunning a six-pack all at once.
That's right.
Kind of throws you off a little bit. It's weird.
I think I skipped something on this.
What'd you forget?
So I mean, this is kind of important. So
yeah.
So let's say, I mean, you've got these goggles on, and it's consuming your entire field of vision.
Yep.
And when there's a very dramatic change in how the world looks, that can be one of those things to kind of trigger some uncomfortableness. The gurgle in the gurgle in the belly. Yeah. So even if they're very momentary, they can have a big effect,
and they can have a little bit of a lingering effect too.
That's right. So even after it's happened, it can be too late. And at the end, we'll talk about kind of some of the symptoms to look for when you're kind of feeling, okay, I think I'm very sensitive to this stuff. I think it's time.
Like this guy.
That's right. So next on, the second time you've seen it, so games that are dark and scary, while I don't necessarily classify this with the motion sickness stuff, being as immersive as it is, this can have a great impact on maybe little kids, something like
Absolutely.
that. So we've got this warning label. So if it's kind of one of these like games where you're holding a flashlight, things are kind of darker, it's scarier.
Might have little things jumping out at you here and there. The jump scare.
That's right. We
Yeah.
can mark it off with this. Not that I've seen any games that have spinning, but just in case.
I've seen one, and it's actually an exercise video, or not video, an exercise kind of experience. There's a couple of the boxing games that if you're moving around in
You get
here,
knocked out.
you can get some spinning going, and it'll kind of throw you off a little bit. But that's about the only
gosh.
one, and it's not very prevalent in the game, but it can occur.
It would get a warning label like this,
Definitely.
Not that it's going to happen often, and we would comment on it and let you know that it's in there and how often. But it's just to kind of let you know, hey, be aware of it.
Mhm.
So if you're a little concerned about it, we observed it in this game, or as they call experience. Climbing. Climbing seems to affect some people. So sometimes you'll get ladders or you're climbing a mountain. There are some games that are literally just climbing.
Just climbing a mountain, yeah.
There's a couple games called Climb. The
Yeah.
Climb and the Climb 2. Some
And
games
then,
are either climb.
yeah, I've definitely
building.
can run into a few games where you're climbing a ladder.
Yeah. And I think at first, to me, it kind of more felt like I was pulling the entire universe down than me feeling like I was going up. I think is the feeling, which is weird, which can trigger that, some motion sickness.
Yeah, a little bit. I know that there's one game you and I had been at least trying to get the multiplayer working. It hasn't really been released yet. That one seems to be where you kind of climbing it, but the world just kind of shifts in a weird way. And that threw me off for a little bit, and it took some getting used to again.
It can definitely take some getting used to.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope to never have to use this one.
I really don't want to use this one at all.
But as you can see, the Rob is in a very extreme situation that we put him in. And I think that's kind of partly why he's so quiet right now. I think he's still recovering from our...
There was that. There was the 6 beers and the 4 shots of tequila, I think, that he had before that.
The mandatory volunteer work that he did.
Yeah. He used to get 3 more peanuts out of it.
That's right.
Good job, buddy.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll never have to use this warning label.
That really is the one that I want to stay away from the most.
That's right. Now, all these games have different rotation settings. So, for instance, there's snap rotation. So you flick the little joystick and it just instantly snaps, and you're turning in sometimes 45 degrees, sometimes 25, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the games let you change the number of degrees, but it's not a fluid movement, which is actually harder to get used to for some people.
I actually found this a little bit easier to get used to rather than like a fluid movement.
Well, that's what I mean. The snap rotation, when it's instantaneous, whether it's turning, falling, or moving through space, when it's instantaneous, people seem to be okay with it. When it's a slower fluid movement, some people are affected by that. So most games do have this snap rotation feature, kind of like standard. Some don't, though. And,
I've run into a couple that don't have that feature at all.
But at least any games that we review, we will go over what we've got here. So,
hey, are you getting this from him?
Yeah, no, they're not paying
cheese, bro.
attention.
I mean, smells like rotten 5-day-old cheese.
That's right. So there's free rotation,
yes,
in which you turn the joystick on the controller and you can kind of rotate as you would. Now, most people would think maybe playing like a first-person shooter, oh, this would be so cool in VR. It's actually really intense in VR.
It really is.
And it can take some getting used to. So before you go start heading for those games that are these like first-person shooters, I do urge you to try out some of the comfortable stuff first. And at
least
get your feet wet with some of the easy stuff, and just make sure, because if you jump into that intense stuff right away, it can be really off-putting because you'll have such a strong reaction to it. You won't want to put that thing back on your face, and you will have just wasted a lot of money.
Several $100s, yeah.
Yes.
Not like this guy. He only pays for peanuts.
That's right. So, a lot of games have different movement settings. And one of them is free movement. And this is generally one of the tougher ones for people to get used to. I think this is what people would expect in something like a first-person shooter, but this can have an extreme impact on people's motion sickness. This can make you feel pretty ill. I started out not being able to really do this very much, and I've worked my way up to kind of now I can handle it in somewhat moderate doses.
Yeah, it took me a little while to kind of get used to this as well, at least several weeks before I could actually get to this point. I had to do some other stuff before I could get that free movement down.
But it does take some easing into.
Absolutely. And I mean, we just kind of
sure.
threw this cheese ball into it and see how he felt, but
Yeah, we just kind of forced him. He didn't have a choice.
Nope.
He'll be okay though. So one very common method of movement through the worlds is free teleportation. So you would use your controller and kind of aim where you want to go. You click whatever button and you appear where the cursor was on the ground where you were pointing. And this again, the instantaneous movement where you don't see the world moving, it's just I'm here and now I'm suddenly here. For whatever reason, some people that's a lot easier for most
that
people.
was kind of like the way that I got around the worlds that we kind of played in for a while, was this free teleport here, because it for some reason that liquid moving kind of feeling, seeing this, that instant snap, boom, you're there, it doesn't mess with your inner ear as much for some reason. It was more preferable for a long time.
Yeah.
And only recently, within the last couple of weeks that I've actually been playing, have I been able to use more of the free roaming stuff.
The teleporting is definitely something that everyone should have as a starting point.
Absolutely.
If you get one of these and you try a game and it's got the teleport system, start with that, and see how you do and ease into it. Absolutely. Now, particularly, we've got here free movement or free teleport, where you can kind of pick exactly where you want to go. But
kind of in a 360-degree rotation, yeah.
There's also a version of that where you can teleport only to specific spots. Mm-hmm. Some games have this function, and I mean, this is probably the most comfortable. I mean, there's very little moving around in the world. You're going only to very specific locations that are kind of highlight and click on.
Yes. I think I have one game even right now that I was using even today that has something very much like this. It's just point, I want to go over here, click, and then you jump there, and the change is instantaneous, but you don't have that feeling of like, well, I can roam around in this area, look around and shift and whatever. It's just you can go one of like 8 ways, and that's it.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And there's other types of movement as well that some games will have, and one of them is dodging. So like moving side to side. This is not necessarily a lazy person's video game system. This isn't like sitting on the couch with a controller, like lounging.
Yeah, that's not like the Xbox, PlayStation kind of stuff. This is definitely something you got to get up and move around with.
That's right.
You will, if you get some of these games, some of these very active games, you will work up a sweat.
That's right. Some of them you can play sitting down and be very relaxed. And again, these are the things that we aim to talk about because we feel like there's not a lot of people talking about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Some games involve ducking, so You can
And
see
not that
where-
fake, F word, and then it comes into duck. It's actual up and down movement.
Yeah, where you got to get quick, at some point get low to the ground, and
Yes.
yeah. And we've got overall comfort here. We got the Rob.
What is he doing?
He's not doing too good.
I think he was drunk. He fall over a couple of times.
It's possible.
Yeah. Okay.
So
you're weird, bro.
one method that some games have, and this is sometimes a setting, a feature. Sometimes you can turn it on. Sometimes you can't turn it off. Is the peripheral blinding or vignette. And what it'll do is while you're moving, it kind of blocks.
Gives
a
you
lot of
that
your
tunnel
peripheral
vision
view.
almost.
Yeah. So you can at least see where you're going, but it does actually dramatically cut down on motion sickness. So games
because you're not getting things kind of moving past your face on the side. Yep. You're just kind of getting that tunnel vision where everything kind of comes at you at a normal setting.
Absolutely. So games that'll have this feature, we're going to label it with this for you to let you know that we saw this in there and at some capacity, because some have different amounts of it. I've seen variations of it where it's really narrow and some where it's very subtle. But at least having it there, we're going to mention it for you that we saw it.
That's if this guy remembers what it is.
That's right. Another interesting thing is games where you're maybe in a cockpit, spaceship, airplane, car.
Race car.
Something where your eyes can sort of like grab on, where instead of you moving through space, you're in something else that's moving through space. And for whatever reason, it helps the brain a lot. So people that do have some issues with motion sickness playing these, this can actually help quite a bit. The more it's very similar to the peripheral blinding in that it's somewhat limiting the view of the whole world changing around you. And that can actually help quite a bit. The other thing that we've seen to help with this for a visual anchor is having a platform. So some games will have some sort of thing that you're always standing on, so you're not necessarily floating or just on some random ground, but at least something that you can
look down and go, oh yeah, I'm on the ground somewhere.
Because looking down and seeing nothing in certain games it's
a little disorientating.
It's a bit much. Some people can handle it okay, and kudos to you. That's awesome. But
you did all right with this one.
There are people that that's a little harder to handle.
Yep. He was all right though.
We're going to be going over safety. We have a very particular safety rating.
What was Rob's favorite one? Safety third, I think.
So we've got wall punch risk. We're going to be rating this from 0, low, medium, and high. And this is games that maybe you need a lot of room and you're probably going to be very motivated to reach a little bit further than you initially anticipated. And we're going to talk about the system that somewhat mitigates this, but is not flawless.
Yeah, it's certain. For the most part, it actually does pretty well. But there are there are moments where it doesn't happen fast enough. You end up, hey, if you're standing next to a wall, if that's part of where you're, situated and working with your Oculus here, you could very well punch a wall and, hurt yourself, maybe damage the wall as well.
Jen has punched the TV. I've punched my bass guitar, a lamp.
I've punched a wall. I've punched a bookshelf. What else? I punched a tree, a Christmas tree. Punched that once. I think I knocked over a chair once. So I mean, some of these games get pretty active.
I think I actually fractured a finger.
Yeah, I definitely had something wrong with my thumb for a couple of days after I punched the wall.
So this is very real. This is something to consider. There's a game that I played that actually said, like, don't let your kids play this. Because some games are tough to kind of keep track of where you are. You're kind of your center, and it can be easy
You
to
can
go.
kind of lose yourself in there if
Yeah, if you get into it enough, which is cool, that's kind of the point to get into it. But some of them it can be a bit much, where you're so into it you kind of lose track of where you are in the real world. And if you haven't given yourself as much space, this can be a very real issue.
Kind of glad we had him in that one room, so because he really did kind of swing around a little bit.
That's right. It's not necessarily the thing that you want to not consider.
It's definitely a consideration for sure.
I'd say before we proceed, instead of piling things on to the end, I say we talk about the Guardian system that the Quest has, which is
absolutely
its method of when you put them on, you're generally kind of cut off from being able to see the outside world. Now there is
for the most part.
There's a pass-through mode, as they call it, in which the 4 cameras are somewhat feeding that video input into the headset, and you can pretty much see around you. But when you're in a game and you can't really see your surroundings, how do you have a way to know? I know those things are.
They're I'm really trying. He smells pretty bad, but man, them flies are fun. Anyway, so yeah, we go ahead, Matt. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's all right. How do you know?
What? There's when you're going through and you put those goggles on, there's a little you've got your handheld controllers. It goes through a series of steps that you can see through that pass through that Matt was talking about, and you kind of draw out on the floor.
It's like using a laser pointer. It's like you're using a laser pointer. You're drawing kind of. They call it the Guardian, basically. Right?
Yeah, they do call it a Guardian. That's the thing that you're kind of watching when you don't want to punch the wall.
And I think we can, in another episode, I think we can go more in depth. I had some other graphics for the Guardian that I did not put into this. And, maybe I should have, but that's okay. That's okay. Everyone will be all right. But there are 2 types of Guardians. There's a stationary Guardian, which is maybe like a 3-foot cylinder that you're sitting in.
Pretty much. And you're seated in a chair. It's about, maybe about the end of your knees to the back of the chair. It's really kind of small.
Yeah, it's fairly small. Definitely, if you're like sitting on a couch or a chair or something, like definitely meant for some kind of sitting situation.
Yes.
But some games don't support that, and so that's where we hope to have your back and let you know about it. Now
that's mainly where this wall punch risk kind of came from, because we've had that Guardian set up, and even though you're moving within those boundaries, beyond those boundaries will be the chair, the TV, the table, the wall, the bookcase, your dog, your wife, somebody. Definitely things you don't want to be swinging at.
Nothing is stopping you from punching the wall. There's a visual where you draw this line, where the Guardian is drawn on the floor. It puts up sort of this grid around you, and you can only see it when you get close to it. So if your hand goes through it, if your head gets close to it, you get this
grid that shows up.
You can see where it is in 3D. So you kind of know, if I go much beyond that, I'm going to hit something. Mm-hmm. Some games you get so into and you're having so much fun, you forget it.
And that's the reason they put that grid up, is so that you're kind of getting to the edge of maybe a wall or the TV or your loved one.
But even though they put that there, some games it's not enough. And that's why we have the safety label for wall punch risk.
Yes.
To let you know, hey, you got to be careful playing this game, because you'll have a lot of fun and you could accidentally break some stuff.
And we wouldn't want that.
Or furniture, this can happen. It can be that much fun.
Absolutely.
what we got the most out of was multiplayer.
Yes.
I think our first game together was Drop Dead. I remember
Yeah, I
throwing
think it
a
was.
shotgun over to Sean. He caught it midair, shot some zombies, threw it back to me, and I shot some zombies. And then we gave each other a high five. And
It was kind of cool, but this
during,
guy.
Yeah, I know. During quarantine,
Kind of
it was pretty
cool.
rad because I haven't seen Sean in quite some time, even though
Yeah, I think it's been
a year.
About a year, yeah.
About a year. As of right now, anyway.
Well, at least, face to face. We see each other like this every once in a while.
That's right. But it was kind of cool to be able to high five my friend instead of like on a console where you got the chat and maybe you see an avatar, but that extra level of interaction, I think, really
kind of brings it home.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something that a lot of people are actually craving, that human interaction. And while it's fake, it's not completely real.
No, but it gives you kind of a sense of like I'm with somebody.
No, yeah, the multiplayer games to me, I try to get mostly multiplayer games. There's some single player games, but for me, being able to have these fun experiences with your friends is it's a lot of fun.
Especially like right now when we're all kind of like semi locked into our houses or apartments or wherever in our bedrooms for a while. Can't really go out and like interact with people at the moment.
Yeah.
But that hopefully will change within the next year, I hope.
Yeah, we'll see. So multiplayer, there's a lot of different variations you can have with it. So, of course, there's player versus player. And some people like these kind of games. This would be 1 versus 1, and there are some games like this where it's you versus some other random person.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's not necessarily specifying if this is with someone that you know, a friend. This could be some random person.
Could be somebody from outer Mongolia, deep in the steppes of Russia, or, somebody right down the street.
That's right. So there could be 2 versus 2.
Could be you and a buddy versus 2 other guys, 2 other girls.
It could be 3 versus 3. Guess where I'm going with this next?
Hey, 4 versus 4.
It could actually be 4 versus 4. So like 2 teams, couple teams. There are some games with like 3 versus 3, and I haven't made the graphics for those. I'm really sorry. Moving along. If a game has a cooperative mode, and Sean and I think, generally agree, we do like these cooperative modes. I really
do like these.
I don't really like destroying other people or trying to compete against other people. I generally do like helping people, and especially when you get a game where you're playing with a friend.
That's always fun.
And one person is way better at the game than the other. Playing competitively, the game isn't really fun for one person.
No, you kind of get like, well, gee, this guy's been playing for 17 years on this thing, and here I just bought it yesterday. So obviously, Rob, he's not the greatest at these things anyway, but you kind of get that sense of like, oh my gosh, like there's no way I'm going to be able to keep up with my buddy, or at least I'm going to get slaughtered by everybody out there.
Yeah. So I've always found cooperative game modes very important. I think cooperation and teamwork are vital. They're very key for the future of mankind. So any video game that can help teach that and the importance of that, I'm all about it. But generally, yeah, like I like helping my friends.
I'm kind of in the same boat. I like helping my friends. I like having that interaction. Like we're doing the same thing. We're trying to reach that same goal. I mean, Rob, he likes to be off on his own, but Matt and I, we like to, get together and play cooperatively. It's just much more fun for us. Yeah. Woo!
That's right. That's right. So
yeah.
Let's see, we got 3 players as well.
We've done that too, where I know your wife has been involved. We were playing a couple of games this way. And this is another one where I think even one of the same games that we normally play, I've actually played with other folks from across the world, and it's all 4-player competitive or cooperative, excuse me. We're all
Mhm.
trying to like get a higher score, but at least we're all kind of working towards the same goal.
Yeah. Which I think cooperative and competitive can coexist in that
Yes.
sense. So, does the game have a single player mode? Like a single player story? Can you play it just by yourself? Like those days where I don't want to talk to anyone, I don't want to see anyone.
I don't want to smell anyone.
I want to. Maybe next time they can switch seats, and I'll deal with this.
Well, this guy would have to sit outside for anybody not to smell him.
That's right. If it's competitive, you against another person, so like 2-player. There are some games where it's literally just one versus another player.
Yep.
And it could be like a 3-player free for all.
And I think we played a couple of those too, where it's been, you and me and somebody else competing against everybody.
I mean, technically, the next video that we'll do on golf.
Yeah, that one. Oh, that was fun.
That's competitive.
But at the same time, we're all kind of going for the same thing.
Well, yeah, it's definitely not cooperative. We're not helping each other. We're going against
No,
each other.
because I don't think the game would actually allow for that. But because every once in a while you just kind of go, hey, buddy, you got real close here, just knock that ball in for you.
Well, it's competitive. It's not combative.
Exactly. There's no, you're not beating each other over the head with a golf club.
No.
Although I don't know, this guy might try it.
That's right. I'm sure there's some games that have even competitive multiplayer, even up to like 8 players.
Oh, probably, yeah.
I did not make a graphic for it. And I do think it's important that when you're playing a multiplayer game, that you be able to have a private party with your friends and not random people thrown in with you. And so games that have that, they're going to get this label.
Yep. I like that. That's a lot of what, I think you and I have done a couple of different times, is where you and I are just going to go and take care of like zombies or something like that. And we don't have to worry about anybody else jumping in and, kind of disrupting what we're doing.
That's right. So that's kind of an important thing. And now these are a little rougher. I don't think I've really polished these off enough. And we're going to see some more of these labels coming down the road as we get to them. But any game where you're in a vehicle,
spaceship, motorcycle, RC car.
There's some racing and driving games, and I've had just a little bit of experience with them, but it does impact like how. Remember we talked about the visual anchor, the cockpit, that can impact it, and also how fast you're going, how much you're turning. So any game where it's kind of more like a motorcycle, maybe faster, sharper turning, would.
Maybe like a really cool aerial bank or something like that the Rob's sitting on.
Mm-hmm.
Those things are lots of fun.
So you can see...
hey, Rob, put your hands on the wheels, man.
Yeah. And that's the neat thing, is some of these games where you're in a cockpit is you're actually holding a steering wheel and like moving levers with your hands. It's interesting when that happens.
Absolutely.
He could be in a car.
Yep. Hey, both hands on the wheel, boy. 10 and 2.
That's
wait,
right.
No, now it's 9 and 3.
And this is the infamous J Kart.
I remember that.
88 5000.
Yep. That was a fun design.
That's right. Got the fish in the tank there.
Got to have your fish fry.
Yeah, and of course, there are some flying games. I
think there's a Star Wars flying game, isn't there?
No, not for the Quest.
Oh.
Yeah. There's 2 that I know of where you're flying in something. Now, if we come across something that we think is we don't like, we're going to let you know. We're going to tell you that We're going to tell you that something stinks, and it's probably the Rob. You over
It is
there.
definitely this guy.
Stinking up the room. Oh.
Flies,
It's probably
man.
the Rob, but basically the Rob knows what stinks because he does too.
Yep.
And what stinks is stuff like the party chat becoming unreliable. When you're in the middle of a game and you suddenly can't hear your friends because everything exploded.
Or the sound is kind of garbled and broken up. You can hear every other word or every third word.
And let me tell you the fun I had making this graphic here. Because I'm thinking, how else do you visualize if you're to make some sort of graphic for the party chat being unreliable?
Yeah, everything just kind of blows up in your face.
If anyone else has a critique on how to make that look better, go ahead.
Nah, I think that looks great, man.
Leave it in the comments.
Down below.
Down below.
Just comment on his crud, too.
No pun intended, but if it has some bugs and glitches, you can see the Rob is glitching out. This is important because sometimes the game can sort of glitch out and the world just sort of like freaks out and moves in weird ways.
In different little pixel colorations and stuff, and it kind of throws out your whole deceptive kind of look to the whole thing. It's
or even little
uncomfortable
things
and bizarre.
like I don't know if you've been in a game where maybe like your hand, the graphics for your hand gets caught in something and stretches,
or it kind of turns sideways like in a weird angle.
Yeah, you know, those weird things, or even the game crashing, or like just the game not working correctly. We'll label it with this with, and I gotta say, if we're gonna use this label, there will be a good explanation with it. So
absolutely,
this could be a broad range of like minor glitch or like we're talking real problems. So you know, this isn't necessarily saying the game is not worth it, not worth playing and trying. Just saying,
maybe the Rob designed it.
That's right. And we can wrap it up with some overall thoughts, and I'll have some more of these to kind of expand the Rob rating system further on.
I can give you an overall thought of what I think of this guy right here. He stinks.
He does stink.
Man.
Overall, I think the motion sickness thing it does seem to affect certain people. When I was starting to look on YouTube for different videos, I didn't see a lot of reviews that kind of talked about this kind of stuff. I felt like most of the people reviewing these games were completely impervious to...
Oh, sure. They're Superman with cast iron stomachs.
That's right. The kind of people that just are not affected by it at all. A lot of them, it's not brought up. And I did think that people like us that are affected by it to a degree should have some sort of resource to kind of learn a little bit more about it. So we're going to continue to have Rob be our guinea pig.
Because he's fun to, throw him into like weird situations and stuff.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, kind of like an overall thought, just like a general deal. I'm a big fan of roller coasters, actual real life roller coasters. I don't mind going upside down, twisting me every which way. I have no problem with that whatsoever. I don't get nauseous. I don't get sick. It doesn't bother me. I could do it all day long. You want to go to Disneyland. You want to go to Six Flags Magic Mountain. You want to go to a water park. None of that stuff bothers me. This, because of certain movements within the eyes, the Oculus, the actual face mask itself, that has made me, from time to time, a little nauseous. So that's why we kind of come up with this stuff.
And how would you describe it? I mean, I feel like
it's not like I want to
start sweating,
eject contents.
You want to take it off. I start feeling it in my eyes, like a little bit of eye strain. My stomach, I start sweating. I've even started farting. I'll just go ahead and say it. It's weird.
Gas is always funny.
Yeah, it's weird how it like affects the stomach, but like
like for me, it's just like a little bit of I don't want to say a nauseous feeling, but it's definitely there's some pressure kind of like in the top of my stomach. And it's just from like I definitely need to take the headset off, need to set it down, sit down for about 20 minutes, and I can come back after that. Every once in a real great while when I first started getting into it, maybe I had to go take like an antacid or something, but for the most part, it wasn't terrible. And like I said, I'm somebody I can jump on a roller coaster, I can go, all day long. You want to go ride the space space coaster somewhere. I'm fine with that. I can do it. I got no problem. You want to go to Space Mountain? You want to go do the whatever. I have no problem with that. But I get into this sometimes, and every once in a while, just a little bit of queasy.
Absolutely. I feel like when I first started using it, I was a little more susceptible to stuff, and I feel like I've gotten I've gotten to the point where I can get into more of the more free movement, the free rotation, and it's not
I've kind of gotten
bothering
there
me
too.
as much. It is something you can kind of like work yourself up to, but paying attention to when you start to feel like crap, stop.
Absolutely, don't keep going.
Just take it off of your face and stop.
Can't really stress that enough. If you're feeling nauseous, stop.
Yeah.
There's no reason to kind of push through and like I'm going to get better after a few minutes. No, it's not going to help you at all. Take the face mask off, put the controllers down, sit down, maybe a glass of water, something. Just kind of give yourself 10, 20 minutes to kind of like settle for a bit, get back to reality, kind of. Because every once in a while you'll feel that like things are moving around and you're not really trying to. You can't really figure out if it's real or if it's imaginary. Maybe we're in the Matrix. Who knows? But I don't know. I've seen some things.
There's definitely a very strong Pavlovian response. So
Absolutely,
you end up like playing till you get sick. Then even like a couple days later, you start thinking to yourself, "Oh, I want to play that game again." Just thinking about putting it back on your face
kind of gives you that
can bring that feeling back.
Yeah.
So don't let it happen. Don't let yourself get so like get so nauseous and whatever that it becomes tough to even want to play it again.
There is one thing that I think I want to bring up too, because it was something that gave me
duration.
Well, duration was a big one, but thankfully there's unless you've got some way to like keep the power going or whatever, you got an extra battery. It's probably about 2 hours or so you can kind of play. But when I first got it, you can move the eyepieces on the inside or out, right? Yep. And if you don't set those up just right, and there are programs out there and applications and stuff where you can set this up. I gave myself a headache for a full day. It didn't matter what I took. I could take extra strength Tylenol. I probably could have taken codeine or Xanax or who knows what. It didn't matter. That headache was not going away. And it was there for 24 hours. And it was because the way that your eyes are set up, they're either close in or they're out a little bit. And it's all about where you're focusing with your eyeballs. And they're like Matt actually informed me that there's a program out there, and I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head right now, but you can find it and you can find videos and stuff on it. And you need to make sure that you're not set it out too far or too close in, and because it'll give you a headache, and you don't want to go back and play with that if you're going to be getting a headache.
Inside of the device, you just see two lenses. Now, some devices like this, you have things like focus and because everyone's eyes aren't
might be a little dial or something
same
too,
distance
sometimes.
apart. Now, the apps that you'd be looking for, you're looking for something called interpupillary distance.
Thank you. Big words.
And so a lot of them will use the front-facing camera to look at your face and actually tell you what that distance is. Now, the Quest has only 3 settings that generally what they say works for, like 97% of the people. So you really
unless you got eyes like on the side of your head.
Yeah, you're just, set it for the one that works best for you. But you can get one of these apps that actually measures it. I found that to be helpful. I got a measurement and I put it on that setting and I was like, yeah, this is it. Because I wasn't too sure. I was trying 3 different settings and jumping back and forth, and I was like, I don't really know
And see, I just went ahead and just jumped right in. I just put it on my face, pushed it out as far as it goes. Like, oh yeah, I got big eyes. This will be great. I want to see the wide field of vision. Not knowing that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, get a headache later.
And it does have an adapter that comes with it if you wear glasses.
Yes.
And what it does is it puts a little extra space, so you've got room for your glasses in there. That they're not going to be hitting those lenses.
You're not going to have lens rubbing up against lens on the inside of your device.
That's right.
This guy.
There's probably
scratched
other
them all
stuff.
up.
That's right. There's other stuff we could be talking about with.
Sure.
I think the Oculus Quest in general and the overall experience, and I think a lot of these little tidbits will come out as we start reviewing some of the games, some of the anecdotes and things we've come across with its online store and the overall experience with it. But I have to say, I'm quite pleased with it because as we started this, I'd mentioned needing the sensors around the room, the big computer. It's an all-in-one device. It's wireless.
Absolutely.
You put this thing on, you have the two controllers, and that's it. There's no wires going anywhere. You don't have to plug it into anything other than to charge it.
Yeah.
You do have the option to hook it up to your computer.
There's cables out there that you can buy that you can hook it up to your computer.
That's right. And you can use the VR games on your computer then and more or less just use the Oculus Quest as a VR viewing device with the controllers as well. But it is its own standalone wireless VR console, which is very important because at the price that it's at, it has a lot of other systems beat out. It's not as capable as a system that you can hook up to your computer. So the graphics are not going to be as good as some of these people that have
PlayStation. Some of them are, they're pretty good. But, those things are designed kind of like the PlayStation, the Xbox. Those things are specifically designed for like high-end graphics.
I'm talking PC, custom build, expensive graphics card, tons of RAM, SSD. We're talking like a PC VR is what they're called. It's a computer that's designed just for doing VR stuff, and it could be expensive.
Sure.
Definitely more than an Oculus Quest. So expect that when you're looking at the graphics. You're not going to get these modern day graphics on it because it's basically an Android phone with two screens, one for each eye.
Mm-hmm. Is
really what's inside. It's relatively new processor, so it can handle quite a bit. It's enough. And even though the graphics aren't super detailed, the resolution isn't insanely high, and it's high compared to a lot of other headsets.
Oh, yeah.
The fact that each eye is getting different information actually makes it feel a lot more high resolution than it is.
Very much.
Very, very much so. I think that's all I can say on it at this point.
Yeah. And we'll have more to talk about when, later episodes and stuff too.
That's right. So we hope you learned something today about the Oculus Quest. We'd like to thank you for joining us, myself, Matt, Wizard, the Rob, and Sean on Action 9 Industries.
Thank you all.
That's right.
And good night.
That's right. And thanks
Maybe
for
we can
watching.
get this guy in the bath or something. Hose him off.
Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.